1. This story occurred around a year ago in a Banana Republic store. At the time of this story, I was a junior hockey player and my team had just stopped at a fairly large strip mall to waste some time before our next game. When we arrived at the mall, my team spread out in small groups with me and a teammate going together. After a short time, we wandered into Banana Republic to check some clothes out. Now, hockey teams typically dress in suits the majority of games to present a good image, and I was no exception. As me and my teammate browsed, I was helping him pick out some clothes as fashion is a hobby of mine. While I'm helping my friend out, I noticed an older couple occasionally looking over at me. After I had finished talking with my friend, the lady came over and asked me if I could help her. I of course said yes, and followed her over to where her husband stood trying on a blue sports coat. He looks over at me and says, "What do you think of the fit on this jacket?" I ask him to spin around and tell him it is a little tight around the midsection and suggest a larger size. He looked at me with a smile and asks, "Did you just say I look fat?" I immediately responded with a laugh and said, "Absolutely not. I just want you to find the most comfortable clothes that fit correctly." We make a little more small talk and I help him find the correct size, and let him know if they have any more questions to let me know. As I walk away, I realize they thought I worked there, as I was the young guy in the same attire as the staff. I tell my teammate with a laugh what just happened, and walk out of the Banana Republic to another men's fashion store. After aimlessly browsing through the products with my head down, I hear a familiar voice saying, "Hey, can you help us?" After this is repeated several times, I look up and see it's the old couple again. Walking over to them, they obviously become very confused as they notice who I am. I smile and say how nice it is to see them again and offer my help. The lady looks at me inquisitively and asks, "Didn't we just see you?" Realizing their confusion, I explain how I don't work at the mall and that I'm just a hockey player. They realize their mistake and apologize for inconveniencing me, to which I say I am more than happy to help. I helped them out and saw them a couple more times in the mall before my team left. 2. This particular story happened to me a few weeks ago on a weekday. A little background. I work in an Australian clothing and lingerie store in Malaysia, and our brand name has a type of material in it. Not going to reveal the name, this info is just important for the story. On this particular day we were swamped, as we're surrounded by many offices, and it was the usual after-work rush. We're a pretty small store and our hours weren't a lot, so it was just me and a co-worker working our asses off making sure the store doesn't get out of hand, and too messy to clean up before closing later that night. Cue entrance of messy bitch. At first, MB seemed nice enough to be sympathetic towards my co-worker and me, because we both looked absolutely exhausted. Between clearing stock, racking up clothes, and handling the registers, we were completely drained. She tried to make friendly conversation with us and asked the occasional question about our clothes and where our brand is from, but she eventually just started browsing on her own. Now I am near the front of the store folding and rearranging the messy piles of clothes on our tables while my co-worker was at the registers, ringing up customers, so neither of us were paying much attention to MB. After I was done with my table, I turned around to head to the registers and, you guys, I am not joking when I say that MB was literally just pulling clothes off hangers and either leaving them on the floor or just strewing them on top of nearby tables and fixtures. We had spent so long trying to make the store presentable, and it was so infuriating to see everything just thrown all over. She then moved on to the underwear table. That table is basically arranged so that the size that is sold most, which is surprisingly small, even though our customer demographic is mostly women on the larger scale, but that's a whole other rant, is placed on top. Then all the other sizes, extra small, medium, large, XL, are folded and placed in the drawers below. MB seemed like a pretty small woman, but not only was she messing with the underwear on top of the table, she was also messing with the drawers as well. Usually we try our best to approach customers who seem like they're reaching for a size that's too big. Australian sizes seem to run a bit bigger than the usual sizes here in Malaysia, to help them before they make a super big mess. But after seeing what MB had done, I swear to God she was doing it on purpose. And so I had had enough. "Hey miss, we've actually spent really long arranging our merchandise, and would appreciate it if you could approach either me or a co-worker if you need any help, rather than reaching for it yourself and messing the display up. We would be more than happy to assist you." Big smile.
"Why can't I take them myself, huh?"
No, of course you can. I just think it'd be better if we helped you take any items that you're interested in so as to minimize the messiness caused.
So you're saying I'm dirtying your store, is it?
Random loud yelling. I just tuned out. Miss, we have other paying customers here right now, and I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to ask if you could please leave if you're not going to buy anything, and continue to make a fuss as you're causing them to feel uncomfortable. Boy, she did not like this.
Well, let me ask you. Could you please close the store and go back home if you don't have any customer service? Gosh, I did want to purchase something, but you've completely ruined my mood now.
More rambling and yelling about how we're incompetent and rude and that we're losing a huge sale. Miss, please leave the store. Now. Surprisingly, she walked out of the store just fine, and I thought that would be the end of it. Well, how wrong I was. She came back 5 minutes later, yelling from about half a meter away from the store.
I thought I told y'all to close this store. Why are you still open? Just go back home.
Miss, if you continue to harass us, I will call security. She froze up at this sentence. She did eventually leave us alone, but not before yelling one last thing at us.
You guys are cheats anyways. Your clothes aren't even made of
insert type of material that's in our brand name.
I'm going to give your HQ a visit and tell them that they should close your store down because your clothes are made with a different type of material. Y'all are cheating our money. Lowlifes! Just save me the trouble and just close the store. Go home. Leave!
Good luck with that, lady. Our HQ is all the way in Geelong, Australia, and I doubt they'd pay you any attention. Plus, we never claimed our clothes are made from that material. I also found out the fact that she was so adamant on us closing the store really funny. A few customers witnessed the whole interaction, and when MB left, everyone just burst out laughing at how absurd she was. It was great. Cleaning up after, however, was pretty sucky. 3. I've got 2 years of retail experience and a little over 1 year of register experience. I didn't run register at my first job, under my belt at this point. Not much could prepare me, though, for the day that this tale happened. Since this will be important later, I work in a strip mall. It was a slow day, really. I was working an evening shift and a lady came in that caught my eye pretty quickly. When I first saw her, she was holding a cigarette in her hand, and for a moment, I thought she was smoking in the store. But she put it back in her pack and started looking at litter boxes, minding her own business. When I asked her if she needed help, she told me she was fine and waved me off. Up to the register she comes, and I ring her up for about $20 worth of merchandise. She handed me a $100 bill that caught my eye for a couple of reasons. One, the minted date of it said 1990, so it was an older looking bill, and 2, it didn't feel right. It had a weird texture to it, and I knew something was up when she handed it to me. Now, the reason why it being an older bill caught my eye was because my dad is a person who has a hobby of collecting quarters and other forms of currency, whether it be from other countries or from the United States. I find the quarters that he's looking for in my register, and I swap them out for a bag that he gave me of ones that he already has. So I hold it up, check for a watermark, and don't see one. So I called the manager on duty over, and the only other person in the store with me, and asked him to look at it, since I didn't know the protocol at the time. He said it looked fine, and the lady made a comment that irritates me now just thinking about it.
Oh, it should be real. I just got it from the bank.
I reluctantly take the bill and give her $80 in change, and she goes off on her merry way with her cheap litter box. About 20 minutes go by, the store is still dead, so my manager and I go outside for a smoke break, when the guy from the vitamin store next door asks if a lady came in with a fake $100 bill. And it catches my attention quick as I did get those bad vibes earlier. The guy told me that he didn't take it because his store didn't take bills with that high of an amount, and he could just tell by looking at it that it was a fake. I rush in the store, pull out the bill we were given, and he nods his head and tells me it looked exactly like that one. She apparently gave him her name and phone number for his store's rewards program, and he wrote it down for my manager, before I got the gut feeling that she had pulled this stunt on other stores in our mall. I wanted to be a good person and warn the other stores, so I quickly made my way down the strip to discover she had bought $20 worth of stuff from 3 other stores in the strip. This resulted in her swindling us all out of $320 altogether. She gave her name and number for another rewards program, but they didn't match up with the one she gave for the vitamin store, so we were at a total loss for the time being, and my store and the others had to eat the cost. Other stores had checked the counterfeits with a pen, and they showed up as fine. But one by one, the other managers checked the bills closely. They came to realize that they were all fakes. As the law states, we had to turn the bills over to the local law enforcement, and they did an investigation, but weren't able to come up with anything. All the stores on this strip were watching out for this lady, and 3 months later, she was smart enough to return back to the mall and try to pull this stunt again. One of the other store managers remembered her face, refused to take the bill, and when the lady tried to run, knowing her ruse was up, they ended up catching her plate number and ended up on the county's most wanted list before being caught a week later. I learned to double-check large bills, and even though I get the usual jests of,
"I just printed it this morning,"
I still keep a sharp eye out so the store doesn't get screwed over again, because my head was almost thrown on a platter when the manager on duty said that I didn't check the bill well enough. When I even asked him to see if it was okay to take, he didn't check the bill at all. I knew how to check them and pay attention to the signs due to my father's hobby. The boss got my side of the story and things ended up getting straightened out. Also, just to throw this out there, the US government didn't print new $100 bills in 1990. Fun fact. 4. This is a tale of how a friend of mine and colleague at the time got his head bitten off. During my time in automotive retail, I spent most of it as an audio-visual specialist, as well as parts interpreter. This basically meant any of the difficult inquiries went to me. A mate of mine found himself in between jobs, and after a brief stint selling Persian rugs for an angry Egyptian man, wound up working with me. A woman came in and wanted a reverse cam system, probably to avoid squishing her many children with her oversized SUV, picking them up from soccer practice. Let's call her Katie. Katie was also interested in sat-nav. She quickly discovered that most hardware that was going to achieve sat-nav and reverse cam was going to cost her in the neighborhood of $2,000 all up, installed at the time. This was simply too much, and so she was looking for a cheaper option. We had a somewhat generic brand that all auto shops at the time stocked, and most still do. Let's call them WaterPro. WaterPro made a reverse cam and sat-nav system called the Crocodile V700, which was a hardwired reverse cam with inbuilt sat-nav on SD card, which attached to your window using a suction cup. It came in at about $1,000 installed. On price point alone, I had reservations about selling this product, but it was cheap and it did everything she wanted. Katie was wrapped. We went about the particulars of taking a deposit for installation, and within a week, she had her reverse cam installed. I promptly showed her how it all worked, and she left, a very happy and satisfied customer. She was not going to stay that way. Approximately 9 months later, she returned asking to speak to a manager. As I was the one that originally sold it, and the only one that had knowledge of such things, that was me. "The suction cup doesn't stick anymore." Okay, let's have a look. We proceeded to her SUV to see it had fallen off her front window. I attempted to re-stick it, and indeed it wouldn't stick. I did the old moisten the suction cup trick and reapplied it. It stuck so well I couldn't remove it. She went on her merry way, slightly irritated but appreciative. It was the 13-month mark since installation, and Katie returns. At the time, statutory warranty was 12 months. After this time, no warranty is legally binding, but good faith repairs common at reputable establishments. "My suction cup is broken." Okay, let's have a look. This time it appeared that someone had been unnaturally rough with the screen, as the suction cup was still attached to the window, but the screen was lying limp face down on her dash. In my opinion, this was not a warranty issue. Perhaps you could purchase a replacement universal phone holder compatible with this little screen and that would fix it. Katie suddenly exploded. The mere suggestion that she might have to pay another $20 had triggered her. Terms like "worst ever," "I can't believe I'm receiving such bad customer service," and "consumer affairs" were thrown around. Contrary to my best judgment, okay, let me contact the manufacturer for you to see if there's anything we can do. WaterPro, after about 10 minutes waiting to speak to someone that had any kind of authority, agreed to supply a replacement suction cup mount, contingent on them receiving the faulty one. Much to Katie's dismay, I didn't have a spare mounting in stock. I wrote down all her relevant information in our warranty book, collected the faulty mount from her vehicle, and sent her on her way. Her faulty mount was quite promptly sent away by courier to WaterPro head office at their cost. 2 weeks go by, during which Katie called our store no less than 6 times, wanting to know when she would be receiving her replacement mount. Each time followed up by myself or the owner with a phone call to WaterPro, to be given an evasive excuse as to why this warranty claim hadn't been further actioned, despite an upfront promise to replace the mount. I finally get through to someone at WaterPro's warehouse who tells me there is no more stock. That product has been discontinued for more than 6 months, and there's nothing they can do. I then called the lovely Katie back to inform her of the bad news, after which I could hear her voice in the phone headset from arm's length. She was at our store within an hour. All of my colleagues saw her approaching, including my manager and my ex-rug salesman friend, and made sure they were anywhere but the front counter, but still in earshot.
I can't believe this. Worst experience with any retailer. I want a full refund. I've been calling for 2 weeks, no solution. The product was crap from the beginning.
Her tone rose and rose. She was getting red in the face, and I chose to stay level-headed and not react. She got personal. She remembered that I originally sold it to her and told me that I was going to pay for giving such a bad experience. Still, I gave her nothing but intent listening and indifference. After about 5 minutes of being berated, essentially her venting, she began to calm down. It was at this moment I was about to offer her some form of resolution. My ex-rug salesman friend comes to my aid.
So Katie, how did you break your new sat-nav mount?
I have never seen someone change demeanor so fast in my life. She went from, okay, I'm willing to hear what you have to say, to Satan spawn in a fraction of a second. Her face turned beetroot red. She ripped my friend a new one.
F you, you effing C. I will personally make sure you get fired. This business will be closed when I'm done. I'll effing kill you, you effing mother effer.
I walked away. I let my friend take all the abuse. He did it to himself, after all. Pretty sure after ripping into my friend for 5 minutes or more, my friend even occasionally giving some back, Katie was 110% done with our store and stormed out without any form of resolution. We received a very poisonous written complaint from head office 2 days later and never saw her again. Pretty sure my ex-rug salesman friend still has nightmares about her. Moral of this story, don't poke the bear. 5. I used to work at a small family-run bakery. The job was okay most days. If I finished up work early, I got to chill and watch Netflix on the computer. Now we did catering, weddings, birthdays, and etc. Pretty much if you wanted a cake for the event, we made the cake. Weddings, of course, were a big seller. To get a wedding cake, you had to do a tasting, consultant, followed by your deposit and signing of contracts. You had to sign 2 contracts. One stating that this was the cake you want and you will pay this amount, and one saying we had no responsibility for damages once the cake left our store, and all sales were final. We kept a copy and the customer was given a copy. This is important. In May or April, a lady I will call Biker Bride comes in with her husband for their tasting. Everything went well. The owner and myself got the colors, flavor they wanted, design, and everything. They sign the contracts, pay the deposits, and leave. They want a wedding cake, 3-tier, and a groom's cake. Now, just to be sure that is what they want, we make a point to call the week before the wedding and go over the details again with the bride. Everything is good. My manager was very organized, so everything was written down, saved, printed, and put into the customer's personal folder. The day of the wedding comes, and my manager and I have worked into the night to finish the cake. She was exhausted, so I told her to go home and I'll handle pickup. All the bride has to do is pick up the cakes. That's all. Pickup time comes and the bride walked in with like half her wedding party. The cakes are sitting out so she can see the work.
This isn't what I ordered. What is this? I didn't order this.
We went over this. Everything was made as you wanted. She had sent us pictures. Everything was perfect on the cakes.
No, this isn't what I wanted. The blue was too dark, and I don't want this to be black.
Now, just to clarify, she wanted the groom's cake to have his biker logo on it. The design was of a flaming skull in black, red, orange, and white. The wedding cake was to be white and baby blue, made to look like a waterfall was cascading down the cake. We had done everything how she wanted. She said the black wasn't what she wanted, the skull looked scary, and we used the wrong color blue. I take a minute to pull her contract and even show her conversations she had with my manager over Facebook about the design. BB won't hear it. She starts crying and wailing in the shop. Her bridesmaid, who had been vaping the whole time, started yelling and cursing at me.
You ruined her wedding! So lucky I am a cake decorator and I can fix this mess you made. You call this a bakery, trying to cheat her?
I was a wreck by this point due to being up half the night to finish these cakes, but held it together. I repeat store policy and repeated the written and printed contracts to show we had followed her instructions step by step. After nearly 30 minutes of crying, cursing, and screaming, BB and her party left with the cakes. I closed up and hoped that would be the end of it. Nope. Come Monday, BB has left a nasty review on our Facebook page, claiming we were rude and refused service. She also said she paid for delivery, didn't, and was denied. Apparently her party dropped the wedding cake in the parking lot. She went on ranting how her wedding was ruined. It was the worst experience of her life and we will never see her again. 2 days after the review, the husband came in. He wanted a full refund. This time my manager handled it. She pulled the contracts and read them both out loud to him. They had declined delivery and had signed an agreement stating this. We were not responsible for damages that happened once the cake leaves the store. All sales were final. All of this in print, and they had signed it. Husband tried to say that we had overcharged them. My manager just pulled the receipts up on the computer. He stormed out in a huff and also left a very nasty review a couple days later. It's not our fault you decided to ignore the contracts you signed. Did you think we just threw those away? Not how it works. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Adventures in Fast Food and Retail, number 39. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. I just want to thank you all for the likes, comments, and thumbs up, and all the other good stuff you've done for me lately. The retweets and the like. And I'm going to keep the rest of the outro short because I need to rest this voice to make sure I can make the next few videos. Okay, so I'm heading off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourself.